names, but then I see other people that, and I won't call anyone out, but they have either just their first name or some initials or some kind of nickname. So what I want everyone here to do is look at your name, and if your name does not reflect your name, at least first name, last name, change it. Because when you are interviewing for anything and you're doing it virtual, and that is one of the new norms now, including for professional jobs. We're interviewing virtually because many of these jobs are hybrid and whatnot, and people want to see who you are, but how you operate in a space where they're also going to be very safe. And maybe it's just not in close proximity to people to bring you in for an in-person interview. They're doing it virtual. So if you're, again, on this call, um, and your name does not reflect your first and last name, whether first name, then last name, or last name, comma, first name, change it. And I'm gonna give all of you a couple of minutes while I'm talking. I'm not gonna wait for you to change your name, but I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. And then if you don't change it, maybe I might call on you a little bit and then say, hey, what's your name? Because what you says there is not what your name is. So with that being said, since we're talking about virtual interviews, just by a show of hands with the Zoom function, the raise hand thing, how many people here have done a virtual interview before? All right. Looks to be halfish, maybe just a touch shorter than that. All right, you guys put your hands down. So, you know what I want to do? Two people that did virtual interviews, Avery, you can put your hand out. But two people that did virtual interviews, and Avery, if you want to put your hand back up at this point, you can. I want you to share with the group just not necessarily what you were interviewing about, but just tell us about the experience in about 30 seconds. Just tell us about the experience that you had interviewing virtually. So, looking for two volunteers. If you don't want to volunteer, that's fine. I won't call on anybody. So, I see Brenda has raised her hand and Ruby has raised her hand. So, let's start with Brenda, then we'll go with Ruby. Go ahead, Brenda.
May you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. So, for those that have been a part of a virtual interview before, you were interviewed virtually. Just in about 30 seconds, can you tell us about the experience?
The experience of being interviewed in a Zoom meeting is
Yes.
that it was pretty scary, not gonna lie. And the fact that you need a quiet place and you need to be confident with your answers, then it gave the idea of like if you were in an actual in-person meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing with us. Ruby.
It's obviously very difficult to convey your charisma and your personality over Zoom. So it's really important to just make sure you're still letting your personality shine through besides just answering the questions kind of textbook like, because ultimately when you're working with someone, you're working with the person and not just their job. So you want to make sure that you're able to communicate who you are, but also why you're a good fit, if that makes sense.
No, that's great. I appreciate you guys saying that. Two very different responses, but both really spot on. Um, Honestly, everything with a virtual interview is going to start with your appearance. Because before you say a word, when you come on camera, they're going to see you. My first question is, how are you dressed? What do you look like? Um, Guys, anytime you're interviewing for anything, you need to have on a colored shirt with a tie, minimum. If you want to wear a suit jacket, that looks good too, but you certainly need to be how I am dressed at a minimum. Ladies, I don't tell ladies what it is that they should wear and whatnot because I don't want to get in trouble. But you need to be dressed very professional. No one should be wearing athletic wear, t-shirts, that kind of stuff, because sometimes first impressions are everything. And the last thing that you want is for that panel, whoever they may be, because most likely they're going to be strangers to you, you don't want them to have some sort of preconceived notion about who you are before you say a word. Because at that point, now you have to basically give the kind of interview that dispels who they think you are. So that's absolutely not. Polos, I see a question in the chat from Jesus. Are polos acceptable if we do not have a suit and tie? I'll be honest with you, polos are not really acceptable, but it could very well be that what you're interviewing for may give you a suggested attire type, uh, you know, some sort of instructions. And if they tell you that you can wear a polo shirt, fine. If you do wear a polo shirt for an interview on camera, I would do the top button. Most people don't wear it like that. I don't actually wear it like that. But for an interview on camera, I would do that if I was being interviewed. But what you should do is try to go out and get you don't have a suit, that's fine, but a shirt and tie, you definitely should do that. Um, as I'm thinking about this right now, I don't know exactly what the youth development department does in that regard with young people and donations, but Sheldon, if you ever want to have a conversation about the potential of donating something like that or working together to get some things for young people so that they can be better prepared professionally, in terms of appearance, I'd love to help with that. Even if we're going to
Appreciate it.
help people that are on the youth council. But again, I'm just kind of taking a sidebar as I'm having a thought based on Jesus's question.
Appreciate that, Ian. And it is on our radar 100%. So we're going to be working on an initiative. We'll pull you in probably by September. We'll start like drilling down. So I'll definitely pull you in because we recognize that that's a priority. Not all young people have dress attire. So we're going to be partnering and meeting with different clothing companies. So we'll pull you in on that. And then for everyone on the call, we do have a website and a newsletter, so we'll always make announcements on that and also on all of our socials in case you're interested. So great point, Ian. You're right there with us.
Got it. Let me ask you a question while I have you, and it's for the benefit of everybody on the call. Is there a particular dress code for the interview, or just want people to kind of come as they are?
I would say the safest route is business casual.
Got it.
That's the safest.
Okay. All righty. So again, the first thing is definitely your appearance. I kind of laid out what you should have, and you just heard for your particular interview, business casual, exactly what you should be portraying. Now, here's the thing. You see me, baby, more or less kind of shoulders up, maybe the top of my torso up. Same thing with the majority of you. That's what I see. However, when you are putting on attire for a virtual interview, I tell people to dress from the ankles. Why do you think that I would tell someone to dress for the ankles up on an interview on a virtual platform? Raise your hand if you think you know the answer. All right, Brenda, you're first. Why?
To treat the Zoom meeting as if it was an actual in-person meeting.
Okay, that's certainly a good reason. Alicia, why else?
I was going to say the same thing that she said because you should be treating the Zoom meeting as if it was an actual in-person meeting. So if you're going in person, you're going to dress from the feet up. So you'd want to do the same thing in a Zoom meeting. But also maybe because the interviewer might want to see your outfit. So they may ask you like if you could stand up or something.
Well, that's possible. Although if you are interviewing for something and they ask to see your outfit, it better be fashion based because somebody's going to get in trouble otherwise. But um, certainly I love the idea of replicating the in-person interview space where, okay, I'm going to wear that same attire at work. I mean, at home, rather, on a Zoom meeting. But again, I'm looking for one thing, and saw Janie had a hand up. Uh, one specific reason why I want you to dress from the ankles up on a Zoom or Google Meet or a virtual type interview. Why is that?
I think it can reflect like the attitude and your confidence towards the meeting. Because
Absolutely.
that,
Okay.
yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
All right. Oh, good. So again, no wrong answers here. The reason that I'm saying ankles up is because let's say something happens and something falls down and you have to go and grab it real quick and you tell the folks because they hear it, oh my goodness, something fell, and you got to get up. I look wonderful in a shirt and a tie. How does that look if I stand up and then they see I have on basketball shorts underneath this because they happen to see my waist? That is a terrible look. And it shows, again, as some of the folks said, you're not actually dressed as professionally and you don't have that etiquette. They're never going to see your feet on a Zoom meeting. But if you have to stand up for some reason, whatever that could be, and they have to, inadvertently see your waist, you have on the pants to the suit jacket, or you have on slacks, or whatever the case may be. And so you appear that you are still dressed professionally. So if you dress from the ankles up, you won't ever have a problem should you ever have to stand and the top of your outfit doesn't match the bottom of your outfit. So always keep that in mind. Now, on a Zoom, and we'll stick to Zoom because we're using Zoom right now, and your interviews most likely will be on Zoom as well. What do you see behind me? Let's put in the chat. What do you see behind me? So some people said a background. Absolutely. If someone says there's a restriction to colors, I would assume for an outfit. No, but if you wouldn't wear lime green to the actual interview, don't wear it on the virtual interview. A good question. So I have a virtual background. Great. There are some people, I'm looking at Ruby's screen, I'm looking at Madeline's screen. They look like they just have the wall behind them. Very nice, very sterile, very not busy, very basic. So there, you can use a virtual background. I just have a white background. I just happen to have the logo of where I work on there because I use my Zoom account for both work and not work. But again, there's nothing wrong if you have a background like Madeline's, where it's just a plain wall, or like Ruby's, where it's a plain wall, but there are a couple of paintings there, but they're not real busy. They're not taking up all of the space. You don't want to necessarily have a very busy background where you have a whole lot happening back there. If you can't necessarily utilize a room in your place of residence or wherever you're going to do your interview where you can have a very basic background, then use a virtual background. And a virtual background that is very basic is better than having a spaceship or a bridge or a beach with a palm tree in the sand. Because while Zoom allows all of that kind of stuff, it really isn't the image that you want to give to the interview. The interview is about you and what you bring to the table, not what's going on behind you. And if what's going on behind you becomes a conversation piece, people are going to want to, at least in their head, have a conversation about what's going on behind you, and they're not going to really be listening to you. So if you're not able to get a virtual background that's very simplistic, then what you can do is blur out your background. So let's do this right now. For everybody that is not using a virtual background, regardless of what it looks like, I want you to blur it out. Go into Zoom, find the function, and blur out your background. All right. Seeing the majority of people blurring, I'm looking at Gerardo, who's with youth development. I'm like, dude, he's not blurring. But then I'm like, oh, wait, he's a part of this. So I can't tell him to blur. But again, so everybody is doing that. So good. Again, these are just different tips because, again, the interview should always be about you. All right. So now that we've kind of gone through the virtual etiquette here, let's talk about confidence. Let's talk about responses. I heard Ruby talk about that when she made the initial address, in terms of just speaking with confidence. So I want to ask you a question. Who knows the most about you? Put in the chat. If you said me, myself, I, you, as in talking about yourself, that is the right answer. Don't nobody know more about you than you. So theoretically, it should be very easy for you to talk about yourself. And again, I say theoretically because I know that many people struggle to talk about themselves and all of the great things that they do. But again, if you look at it from the mindset of, hey, I can talk about me, then you shouldn't have any issues. Now, I think it does take practice. So one of the things that you should do is if you struggle talking about yourself, I want you, not right now, but I want you over the course of this next week as you prepare for your opportunity to be a part of the youth council, is I want you to record yourself for a minute, 1 minute, talking about something that you are passionate about. But I want you to talk about it as if you are telling a total stranger about this thing that you're passionate about. It could be anything. You're into video games, you're into cars, you're into makeup, you're into travel. Whatever you want to talk about for that 1 minute about yourself that you're passionate about, do it. Because that is how you're going to get comfortable talking about yourself. Maybe you don't mind talking about yourself, you don't like to hear yourself. I'm actually like that. I can't stand listening to myself on a recording. But for me, I need to listen to myself over and over again to get over the fact that I don't like hearing myself. So I become numb to it. So if you practice talking about yourself with something that you're passionate about, you're going to be able to carry that same thing into not only this interview, but other interviews. Because here's the thing, whatever you're going to be interviewing for is probably something you're interested in doing, which means you're going to be bringing the passion of you to that. So if you can talk about your experience in terms of some things that you've done in school, whether it's you were part of a team or an extracurricular activity where you served at a church or you were part of your yearbook or whatever the case may be, where it's something that you're passionate about, you have the ability to talk about yourself in that way. And it's not about being a braggart. It's just, hey, let me tell you this cool thing about me, because I want ultimately to obtain the opportunity that's in front of me, which is to be a member of this youth council. I don't know what the questions are going to be, but whatever they are, you should be able to talk about yourself with passion, because ultimately that's what everybody wants. I can teach you the rules. I can teach you math and reading and science. You know what I can't teach you? I can't teach you passion. I can't teach you the desire to be there. You have to show that. And how do you do that? It's by, like some people said, the way that you speak. When you smile, people can look at your face and be like, oh, you know what? This person actually wants to be here versus they're just going through the motions. When you want to be someplace, people, it's going to come out in how you speak. Do you speak with a firm tone, not yelling, but they can tell you're excited? Or are you just, yeah, well, I'm here and, I'm just happy to be here. And, I just want to thank you for the opportunity because I'm happy to be here. Do I sound happy to be there in that moment? No. And if I'm sitting across from you, I can tell that you're not happy to be there. So the way to be happy to be there is to be passionate about what it is that you want to do. All of you are here because it's very clear that you're passionate about the service to young people, people that look like you, maybe people that don't look like you, but you are passionate about the service of young people. There's a whole lot of young people that could be here but aren't. I know a few that should be here and they're not, but you are. So you're halfway home. So now you just have to show that passion and how it is that you talk and how you address the different questions that come up. So again, start with the self-recording of yourself and just that one thing that you're passionate about. So again, I could talk on and on and on and on and on, and I'll talk some more, and I'm gonna put up a small part of a presentation in a second. But I want to answer some questions you may have, Because again, this isn't my presentation to you. This is our presentation together. And while I may be facilitating, I can learn too. And I can learn from you. And it doesn't matter how old I am and how old you're not. There's something that you can teach me. And I'm open to that. So I want us all to work together and let's learn together. So I want to hear some of the questions you may have, and I'll answer them. And if you have an answer that you would like to also share based on what someone said, raise your hand. But now I'll say this. If you do want to do that, it has to be based on an experience that you had, not what you think. So if they ask a question about what would you do in this particular scenario, and I give my answer, and you just dealt with that recently, and you want to, give an example, raise your hand. I'll call on you because it's not just about it coming from me. It should also come from people that look like you and have similar experiences as you. That's how it truly becomes a well-rounded kind of answer, and you get the most out of it. So with that being said, what are your questions? Raise your hand and I'll call on you as I see you. And it could be anything as it relates to interviewing, anything. All right, Janie, go for it.
Oh, hello. So I was wondering if it's okay if I ask a person like to give me some like few minute or like a minute to think about like my answer before I give them my response. Because I'm like not really good at like just, get the question and answer right away. So,
Okay, that's a really good question. So I'm going to teach you a trick right now. You don't want to tell them, can you give me a minute to think about it? How you do that is you let them ask the question, you think about it about 5 seconds, then ask them to repeat the question. That's how you get more time to think. Now, you may get what's called a compound question in an interview, where, for those that don't know, a compound question is one that has multiple parts. So tell us about a time you did this. What was most exciting? What was the part you didn't like the most? Those are compound questions where you have three parts. If you ever get a question with more than one part, I don't care what it is, I don't care how well you heard it, ask them to repeat it. Because you want to get the most time to collect your thoughts and give the best answer possible. So you ever want just some more time to think, ask them to repeat the question, and it's fine. Good question.
thank you so much.
Yeah. Other questions you guys may have? Anything at all related to interviews? Hey, Sheldon, ain't got no questions. Everybody here's got it figured out. So we want to just end this. So look, I got some laughs now. Like, wait, no, we don't do that yet. So what are your questions? So I want you guys to understand that there are no such thing as a dumb question. Zero.
Right.
The only dumb question is the one you didn't ask. So I
Not
want to
really
hear
sure
whatever
how
your
to.
questions are. Hold on one second.
I'm not.
Uh,
I'm not really sure how to raise my hand because I'm using my phone because I'm not
okay,
home right now. But
that's all good.
one of my
What's your names?
yeah.
What's your
Sorry,
name?
my name is Milena.
Beautiful. All right. How are you?
Um, I'm amazing. How are you?
All right. I don't know that I'm amazing, but that's a good answer. I'm gonna steal it. So I'm amazing too. All right. What's your question?
Okay. My question is there a certain, because I'm sure interviews more or less they kind of go over like similar types of questions because they're interviewing you, but obviously tailored to, I guess, the program. So for if it's like an interview for civic engagement, it's kind of going to ask questions more geared towards that and how you align with that. But would you recommend kind of going over, I guess, qualities that you think that would align, or experiences? Because if they were, I'm sure interviews are going to ask you like specific experiences, but I don't know if I would be again able to think of an experience like from the top of my head, of just like something that maybe aligns with the question that they're asking. So are there any certain questions or scenarios that you have, I guess, seen pretty commonly asked within interviews that you think that we could kind of brainstorm or think about so we're more like, so we're just better prepared essentially?
Absolutely. So you actually are foreshadowing to something I was going to talk about. So there is this particular question, and it is probably the most common question in an interview. That question is, can you tell us how your experience, background, education, training, or a combination thereof of those things have prepared you for this position or for this opportunity? That is essentially the opening statement type question. That is your opportunity right then and there to start bringing up specific instances that you have experienced, whether it's through school or work or whatever, that shows your alignment with whatever that opportunity is. Now, here's the thing, because that's typically the first question that you're asked. That's a question that you can go home right now and start scripting an answer for. When I say script, I don't mean write word for word where now you're going to try to remember it verbatim, but you can prepare your answer now. You don't have to wait to get the question and then think about what it is that you're going to say. So if that's the case, we can start working on that right now. So everyone here wants to be a member of the youth council. What has prepared you, whether it's your education, your work experience, your extracurricular experience, whatever it is, what has prepared you to be a member of the youth council? Now, it's going to be different for everybody here, but you can all go home right now if you're not already at home, and you can start writing down, how am I prepared for this? Okay, I took that class in school. I led that particular group at church. I got involved with this particular community organization in the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what did you do with them? But most importantly, forget what it is you did. What did you learn doing it? So it's not just I was working at the pool in the community. This is what I learned working at the pool in the community, engaging with young people. And now that's how you show that you're prepared. But it's about you being able to understand that this question is coming. I can start preparing for it right now. So every one of you now may know what the first question of this interview probably is going to be. How are you ready? What makes you ready? So what's the experience? But more so than what's the experience that you have that's made you ready, what you learned. That is what's going to make you ready. Does anyone not have an experience where they didn't learn anything? Don't raise your hand. I know that's not true. You all have something. You probably all have 2 to 3 things. Now, and that opening statement isn't supposed to go on and on and on and on and on. Limit it to 3 things. You don't have to talk about 3, but no more than 3. So 1 school, 1 extracurricular, 1 something else if you have another something else, whatever, but no more than 3. That answer also for that first question should not go longer than 2 to 3 minutes. It's not designed to be a long, drawn out type response. But again, you don't want to sell yourself short either. So let these folks know. But because you have the chance and the time to prepare this now, you already know what you can say because you can brainstorm now. I first come up with 10 things. Okay, I can't talk about 10. What 3 are the best? These 3 things are the best. What did I learn in these 3 things? I learned this. That's what you talk about in the interview as it relates to that first question. How am I prepared to do this? Did that answer your question, Melina? And Melina, go ahead.
For I guess like extracurriculars or experiences that we have, would you rather, I mean, I guess if you're one of the panelists, would you prefer the student to kind of touch on experiences that they didn't touch on in their application, like kind of would you want to see a versatile response, or would you prefer, I guess, emphasis on, I guess, their current qualifications or experiences they listed?
All right. So me personally, what's on your app is what's on your app. I want to know who you are. Whatever best illustrates who you are, that's what I want. If I open this PowerPoint that I have that I don't want to get sucked into it because I think the dialogue is better. But if I open this PowerPoint, the main key to the entire interview is for you to simply be you, be who you are. Whatever you want to bring up throughout the interview is fine. Here's something else about the interview. Everything you have ever done in your life can be used. It don't matter what it is. There's one rule. It just has to be relevant. It has to be relevant. If you can relate it to what it is, the opportunity, whether it's the youth council or something else, you can use it. It don't matter what it is. Whether it's on the application or what your qualifications are, I mean, to me, they're both one and the same. Whatever gives you the ability to best present yourself is what you should do. So just be you. That's enough. Because that's all we're looking for. Be who you are. I got a couple other hands. I want to go to them. Aiden. Yes, sir.
What are some strategies you would recommend to, I guess, answer the question? Do you have any remaining questions for us, or the panelists, at the end of the interview?
Say that again.
Like, how would you answer the question, do you have any remaining questions about the program or opportunity that we're interviewing for?
So I'm hearing two questions, sort of. So the first question, because I can address that one easier. Oh, this is going to be great. I love just doing audibles. So the first question is, if the panel asks you, do you have any questions of us as it relates to the opportunity? If you get that, ask the questions you want to know. And I'm just using these as an example. I don't believe that you get paid. Maybe there's a small stipend. That's a Sheldon question, not an Ian question. But is the job paid? How many hours do I need to serve? Da, 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 da. And again, these particular things I know are going to be covered in different documentation. So I'm using them as an example. So don't think that if you become a youth council member, you're going to get six figures. That's not happening. I just want to make sure that I temper people's expectations about getting rich. But nonetheless, just ask whatever questions that it is that you want to know as it relates to the opportunity that you haven't already been told in the documentation you've been provided. Now, there's another question, and I'm going to put it in the chat real quick. Give me 1 second. I know dead spot. Almost there. All right, I dropped it in the chat for everybody. I'm going to read it out loud. Is there anything else you would like to tell us to help us assess your qualifications for this position? It's going to come in some form of that. I want all of you, there's one key word to that question. What's the key word to that question? Put in the chat. I want to see if anybody gets it. Some people are saying you and your. Okay. Qualifications. Assess qualifications. Assess. Give 10 more seconds. Else, us. Anything. 5 more seconds. Live experiences. Jade says else. Okay. Sadie, unmute for us. Why did you say else?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, I said else because they're not asking you to like repeat something you already said. They're asking if there's any like additional information that you would like to share.
Got it. Jade, why did you say else?
Hello?
Yes, can hear you.
I said else kind of for the same reason. They asked you to tell them what else could help like them assess your qualifications, not necessarily something you already put in your application or something you already explained in the interview. They're asking for additional information, not something they already know.
So both of you are absolutely right. Else is the key word. They want something else. Give them something else. Anybody ever go to the store and or to a drive-in, or not drive-in, a drive-through, and pay with cash, and you're supposed to get change, and you leave before you get your change? Anybody ever do that? I have. All right, I see a couple heads nodding. That's what we call leaving money on the table. If you get that question and you answer it without giving them something else, that's exactly what you did. You left money on the table. Because that is your opportunity to tell that panel something else about you that they don't already know, that you didn't already cover, that is relevant and will help you achieve and earn that opportunity. So give them something else. Now, the cool thing is you can use anything in the world. Like I said before, everything's in play. Anything you've ever done in life, you can use. It just has to be relevant. Period. It has to be relevant. If you can relate that thing back to the opportunity, it plays. I have an example that I use. I feel like it's going to take me too long to tell it. So I'll use another example. So when I'm interviewing for jobs, I talk about the fact that I have two daughters. Now, the jobs that I'll be interviewing for at this point are high-level managerial jobs. But when I'm interviewing, I tell them that I have two daughters. Now, what does having two daughters have to do with whatever that managerial job is? On its own, nothing. But if I tell them the reason that I'm bringing this up is having two daughters has taught me to have patience, and it has taught me to consider the intent of someone's actions. Did they make a mistake of the mind, or did they make a mistake of the heart? Making a mistake of the heart means they meant well and maybe they didn't know what to do. I can work with that. But if you make a mistake of the mind, you knew better, you just didn't care. I can't work with that. As a manager, that's important. Now, I don't have to say as a manager that's important, but those are the two things that I've learned about having kids. Is that not related to the job that I'm applying for, even if it's not on the position description or the task and competency list, as we would say in the city, that every one of the positions in the city has in terms of what people need to know how to do? Absolutely. So again, it just has to be relevant. How you bridge the relevancy is up to you. It just needs to be something that you didn't bring up in the interview, or they certainly didn't ask about. So, Aiden, you asked a question and I gave you two different answers, but you allowed me to bring in what we call the closing statement, because that's that else question. That's that closing statement. Don't summarize what you've already said. Not because it's not good, but is that else? No. Why? Because I already heard it. Like Jade and Sadie said, it's not else. Don't do these buzzwords about yourself. I'm a self-starter. I'm personable. I'm good on the computer, because here's the thing. Your interview should have already told the panel that based on what you said. So whether or not you actually said those things about yourself, if you've had a strong interview, we now know those things about you. Guess what? You saying those buzzwords about yourself, it's no longer else. and you just giving opinions about yourself that doesn't have any basis because there's no evidence, it's not else either. It's just an opinion. So give the panel something else. And it's whatever it is that shows something more about how you are prepared for this opportunity. Rachel, hand is up.
Hi, my name is okay. Well, how can you like make a strong first impression in an interview, especially like on an online setting?
So I think a combination of the things that we've talked about will make a strong impression. How you appear on camera when you first come on. What's your name look like? You have the ability to adjust that before you even get in the room. So what does that look like? What does your background look like? If you've got a whole lot going on, if you're in your messy bedroom, what impression are you giving versus just having a sterile background? When the interview first starts, smile. Be happy to be there. When you are authentic and you're genuine, that stuff comes out and it sticks out because there's so many people that aren't or don't know how to present that, where it's just about just being who you are and being in the moment. Everybody that's on this call should be happy to be on this call, not because you're talking to me, but because you are engaging in the pursuit of an opportunity that so many others probably would like to have, but don't know the first way to go about doing it or didn't make the effort to be here today like you did. So all of that stuff is what helps make a good first impression. And you can make a great first impression without saying a word. The gift and the curse of that is if you make a great first impression or you believe you made a great first impression, now you got to keep that. But it's very easy to maintain a good impression of yourself than to essentially get a panel or individual to erase the bad impression that they have of you based on you coming on the call not dressed properly, your messy bedroom in the background, you got your homie's nickname right here in Zoom. So instead of it saying Aiden Kim, it's Scrappy. Like, what? I'm already not interested in talking to you anymore, Scrappy, because who are you? So those are the things that help make a great first impression. And how you keep that first impression is just you being confident in your answers and the things that you just want to share with the panel as it relates to how you're ready to do this particular just be a part of this particular experience, whatever it is. Just wanted to see something really quick. So let me ask you guys another question. You guys interview with the youth development department. Now what? What do you do next? Somebody raise your hand. Tell me what you'll do next. Eric, what do you do next?
I guess after you thank them and leave the interview, you could send like a follow-up email saying like, hey, thank you very much for interviewing me today. It was nice getting to know you. I look forward to hearing a response from you. Something like that.
Sheldon, Eric is buttering bread real tough right now, and I appreciate him for it. So when you guys get that email from Eric, I just want you to know that he's a good guy, I think.
Gotcha.
But that's a good thing, Eric. There's nothing wrong with sending a follow-up email, just saying thanks for the opportunity. Nothing wrong at all. Brenda, something different than what Eric said.
I also agree with him that to send a follow-up email and to write down the information of what you learned from the Zoom meeting and what you hope to carry with you.
Okay, that's good. Actually, kind of giving yourself kind of feedback. What did you learn from the interview? What did you like about the interview? What didn't you like about the interview? Assess your own performance. What did you say well? What? Oh man, I wish I could had 10 more seconds. We all do that in interviews. All of us. If I did it again, what would I want to say differently? There's nothing wrong with any of that because that helps you get better. Aiden.
It's along the lines of what you just said, but I would ask the whoever I'm emailing at the end to just give me a overall just feedback on just how I did, perhaps, so that like no matter whether I get the position or not, you can just have a lesson to carry with you again beyond the kind of self-assessment you might have made after the interview. So yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. In some regards, you may be able to do that. In others, you can ask, but you probably won't get the feedback that you desire. And part of it is because certainly when you're dealing with government and civil service, because we're governed by a bunch of different personnel rules, what we do for one person, we got to do for everybody. So, Aiden, you may ask for that, and okay, you took the initiative to ask, but now that I did it for you, I got to do it for Brenda and Eric and Rachel and Melina and Janie and Alicia and Ruby. And I'm just calling them because that's how I see them on the screen. They're not my favorites. But because I have to do it for everybody, I may not have the capacity to do that. But there's no reason you can't ask. So who knows? That's not a bad thing at all. Now, here's the hardest thing in the world, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know what the timetable is going to be for this particular process. I don't know what the timetable will be for any other process that you'll be a part of when you're interviewing, whether you're trying to get into a college or some other type of specialized school or a sports program or trying to get a job or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just have to wait. Now, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking if there's a timetable, although you may be able to ask that actually in the interview. But if you're not able to ask that in the interview, okay, there's nothing wrong with in that thank you email that you sent. Is there a timetable that you all will be making a decision? And if that question gets answered, great. If it doesn't, all right, just be patient. Now, there's also nothing wrong with a few days later, hey, just following up with the interview, making sure there's nothing else that you need from me. If they need something from you, they'll ask at that particular moment. Who knows? You know what? I'm glad you asked. We need you to provide this. Or no, we don't need anything from you. Thank you so much. We'll talk with you soon. Once they say that, you just have to wait. Be patient. You might be the best can in the world, but if you keep knocking on my door every 5 minutes by way of trying to contact me and trying to figure out what happened, can you tell me now? Can you tell me now? I'm not going to want to be bothered by you. I'm not going to pick you. And it's not because you're not a great candidate, but it's because you're impatient. And if you're impatient here, how are you going to be in other situations? People say every day is an interview. So understand that how you operate after, depending on whether you are patient or not, and how you go about that and how you carry and conduct yourself when you continue to engage with these individuals, whoever they may be, before that opportunity ultimately comes to you, you can end up eliminating yourself when you otherwise might have been the pick. Got you, Gerardo. All good. All right. So I can take one more question and then I'll give you a couple of just quick strategies and we'll move on. Brenda, you are dominating this. Let me see if someone else has a question. If not, I'll come to you. Sane, we'll go with you. And if I said your name wrong, forgive me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's Santa, by the way.
Okay,
Yeah,
all good.
Hannah
Thank you.
within us. I had a question
Yes.
about the dressing, like you talked about. What if you dress in a way that people have some sort of prejudice or stereotype against? Because I once did an interview and they told me my hair was messy, but it's just curly.
So we're going to get into EEO, and I don't want to dig in deep into that. I'll just let you know that At best, that's questionable. At worst, it's illegal. Be who you are. If somebody doesn't want to pick you for an opportunity because your hair looks a certain way, that ain't a job you wanted in the first place. So just be who you are. Be yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So, couple of just strategies. There are a lot of different questions that you could come across. You may get a question about conflict. If you get a question about conflict, that doesn't mean tell me about a time you wanted to fight somebody. That's tell me about a time that you had a disagreement between one or more people about how to accomplish a task. It does not need to be emotional or adversarial. Do not use an experience that is that. If you have to talk about an experience where you want to fight your brother or your friend or somebody somewhere, it's all it's going to do is hijack your interview. Don't do that. Just talk about something where you wanted to make a right turn, they wanted to make a left turn. We had a conversation about it, we made an agreement, and we went that way, and it was right or wrong, and we ended up doing the other thing if that was the case. Something that's not adversarial. All of you have that. You just have to jot it down, write it down, and see what it is. The day before the interview, I want all of you to get a good night's rest, whatever that is, especially if your interview is in the morning. Get a good night's rest. You should be preparing for your interview now. Ask questions of people in your life, of interview questions that they've heard in the past, and then write down how you would respond to them. Come up with interview questions. In fact, I'm going to do something with Sheldon where I'm going to see if it's proper. If so, you guys are going to get an email with a blessing. If not, then we won't be able to do that particular thing. But talk to people that look like you that have done interviews. If you have the ability to engage with those that have been members of this council in the past, whether you know somebody or you know of somebody, and you have the ability to engage and ask them about their interview and their experience, ask them. Doesn't mean it's the same questions that you just want to know, hey, how'd your interview go? Were you nervous? Da, 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 da. And just have those conversations. Last and the best thing, aside from being yourself, do not talk about yourself in a negative light. Don't talk about things that would make me or anyone not want to pick you for an opportunity. Always stay positive. If they ask a question that you don't have an answer to, give a hypothetical. I've never done that. However, if I did, I would do such and such. So I know that I'm going to get the hook in a minute, maybe less. And Gerardo was certainly putting in some final instructions for all of you. But I just want all of you just to be comfortable and confident in who you are and the things that you've done. Because regardless of what the person next to you experiences, it's no better or worse than yours. You're here because you deserve to be here. You have all of the proper and necessary experience able to be a part of this youth council. Your job now is to tell that panel why and have a smile on your face and show your enthusiasm to do it. If you do that, you're going to do fine. So I thank you very much. And I hope to engage with some of you, if not all of you in the future at some point, another seminar, whatever the case may be. But it's been my absolute pleasure to do this with all of you today. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Sheldon, and you, Gerardo.
Appreciate it. So if you can, virtual applause to Ian Monte. And you guys can see why his workshops are so popular and that we're standardizing this. So you guys are the first group, the first batch of young people post our expo and post the application process to actually have this opportunity. So we felt it was important We know that you guys are coming into those interviews with all these questions, so hopefully you can mind map and take a lot of advice and input that Ian offered and just start charting kind of your answers, writing stuff down. And what I used to do when I was young is I used to interview with family members. And I was just having them sit across from me and ask me like 5 questions. So repetition is really good. Also want you guys to be advised that distractions, try to limit distractions. On interviews last year, we had kids in the background yelling and screaming. And so not that that's a bad thing, but it distracted the person that was on the call. We didn't mind it. We thought it was cute, but oftentimes that can deter you. You might have a big game plan and some stuff happens in the background that just throws you off. We had situations where dogs were barking. We heard construction, different things. So if you can find a quiet corner, let your family members know ahead of time that you have this interview so that all distractions are kind of, at a minimum. And then to Ian's point, come in, just be you, be your authentic self, smile. Just know that we're getting to know you. That's all it is. It's a conversation. That's it. Just like what we're having right now. There's no reason to be intimidated because every person on the call is an advocate and a champion for youth. You might even see Ian on one of those calls, right? So you'll see some friendly faces. But just want to say that we're excited. Interviews will start up within the next couple of days. We'll be sending you guys calendar invites. The Youth Council, someone asked about, is the position a stipend position? Yes. You receive a monthly education stipend, travel stipend, and if you need professional clothes, that stipend can also help you maintain some of that stuff. So fantastic. I know you guys were on for an hour. We appreciate you guys. Ian, thank you so, so much. This webinar will be available to everyone post our meeting today. So if you have or if you know people that applied, we'll definitely start sending this out. If you can, go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll see everything under the sun that we do on a monthly basis so that you can stay connected. And just wishing you all good luck, good spirits, and an amazing interview. Thank you all, and we'll see you in a couple of days.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Have a great
everyone.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.